Hey everybody, welcome back to Montreal Connected. Joined today on the panel by Sean Gordon from the Globe and Mail and Arvind Basu from LNH.com. And guys, listen, it's turning into a bit of a Habs panel now because all we're talking about is the Canadiens, but that's what the entire city is talking about, right? Okay, let's talk about the Canadiens. They are a completely different team in the playoffs. They're driving pucks, forechecking, back-checking, scoring. Obviously, Price has been pretty steady all season, but he's been playing well too. What are they doing now that they were doing differently, I guess, in the regular season?
Well, Michel Therrien likes to bang on endlessly about attention to detail, and I've always wondered, like, what does that actually mean? And this is what it means. When you look at where their sticks are, when you look at where they are on the ice, when you look at the way the forecheck is applied, it's not perfect. Boston's an excellent team. Tampa was an excellent team. This is not the 1976 Canadiens, but at the same time, when they're following the plan, when they're quick in transition, when they're up on the play, when they're forcing teams to deal with their speed, this is a good hockey team.
And confident, right? They're having fun.
This is a good hockey team. I mean, since March 15th, they've basically been one of the best teams in the league.
Yeah, and that was the comeback against the Ottawa Senators. They do this dramatic thing, and really, if they lose that game against the Senators, and I don't think this is a big exaggeration, I think people in the city were wondering if Therrien was going to get fired. Yeah. And it was a total possibility. They win that game, and they go on this huge run from that point. They were one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the league from that point on till the end of the season, and they carried it right into the playoffs.
And before the series started, everyone was, talking about the aggressiveness of the Boston Bruins, and the Canadiens have dealt with it pretty well. How have they dealt with that aggressiveness?
Well, I think part of it is just accepting that it's going to happen, and accepting that you need to turn the other cheek, and that accepting that you're probably not going to give as good as you're going to get, and that's okay. Because on some level, I think it's about, in a lot of ways, showing that when you're pushed, that maybe you're not going to back away. And I think it's really that simple, because it diffuses the issue, quite frankly.
Yeah, and Douglas Murray was talking about it before Game 3, when he played his first game of the playoffs, and he just said, in general, when you're playing against a physical team, it's not so important that you hit them back. What's important is that you get up and you show that it's not bothering you. Because the intent of being physical is to throw you off your game and put an element of fear into your game. If you don't show that fear, then the physicality aspect almost gets neutralized because it's not effective. And the other it's kind of like a kid who teases someone, and you're teasing a kid, and you see that the kid's not getting teased. You're going to stop teasing him eventually, right?
It's not fun anymore,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
It's not as fun, right?
So there's a bit of that going on as well.
What player to you? I mean, obviously there's a lot of great acquisitions we made before the playoffs. Weiss, Weaver, Vanek. Who though? I guess it has, outstepped your expectations of them.
Well, I think, to me, Mike Weaver was the biggest, well, not the biggest. I mean, Thomas Vanek was the biggest acquisition, but really, my 7-year-old daughter could have made that trade. Mike Weaver was the need on this team at that time. Yeah. I mean, it was a right-handed third-pairing defenseman who will steady that pairing down. And he didn't get in the lineup right away when he was acquired. But once he did, it meant that one of Francis Bouillon or Douglas Murray were not playing. And that was addition by subtraction. I mean, with all due respect to both those guys, you couldn't have both of them in the lineup at the same time. So now it gives Terry an option to give a different look, which we've seen in the playoffs thus far. He had Bouillon play, the whole Tampa series, first couple of games against Boston. He's a more mobile guy. He's a puck-moving guy. He's not as physical as he used to be when he was a younger man. And if you want to bring the physical element and the more lumbering element, then you bring in Doug Murray. And so it allows him to kind of tailor his defense to the situation.
The thing that's interesting to me is that Bergevin went out and got a couple of guys who are hockey players. Mike Weaver is not a spectacular player. All he does is his job. And he's a great defensive player. Their penalty killing has been excellent with him in there. He's not gonna make the highlight reels or anything like that, right? He used to talk about how he had a goal song when he was in the minors, and they ended up having to play it when he was getting hit because he never scored any goals. Except that I think they've only lost 1 game this year when he scores a point. Anyway, hockey player. Dale Weiss, who was acquired before the deadline, speed on the 4th line, a guy who's got a little bit of skill, who's got a little bit of jam, and he's a guy who is a hockey player's hockey player.
It was great to see in that third game too, when Weaver blocked that shot. The puck goes up to Weiss. Weiss puts it 5-hole. I mean, they connected on a really big goal in that game.
It was from Briere. And those are all acquisitions that Bergevin, none of those guys were on the team last season.
And I think it's one of those things where when you can acquire people who are going to exactly meet your expectations, and I think that the 3 players we've talked about have, in basically every regard, hey, raises for the pro scouts,
That's
right?
all you can ask for.
And we're going to be talking about all those players and more, I'm sure, as this series continues. Thanks, guys, for doing this. We'll see you next time.
All right.
No problem.
Thank you.